You kind of are our lesbian dad. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Again, Twitter, you really need context for this one. This, like, it's fine.
Disagree. Charge blindly forward and assume everything. Hi, welcome to At the Table. Tonight with our incredible hosts, I'm Jess, and then, of course, over here we have the amazing CJ.
I'm CJ.
And then we also have Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam Dad. This is my new title.
Sam Dad. Dad Sam. I'm
Dad
trying to
Sam.
Sticking with
Dad
it.
Sam.
You are going to be a dad soon, which is very exciting. But beyond that, as we have established, Daddy is a state. No, Daddy and Dad are very different
Daddy
things.
and
Again,
Dad are different things, Jess.
Look,
Re-establishing.
I cannot stress enough. I am never daddy. I am always dad.
A different state of mind.
My partner has given me a look. I will not comment on the look at this time.
Oh, this week, as always, we have interesting things to bring you from the TTRPG space and maybe the dad space. Who knows? But first, what have we been up to, team? CJ, what's been going on with you?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was doing that I forgot I was doing. Hi, everybody. I have been up to a number of things, including going to UK Games Expo, which was so much fun. I'd never been to UK Games Expo before, but I had been to Gen Con, and it's pretty much like UK Gen Con. And that's a good thing, because I love Gen Con. I got to meet up with lots of people, people I've known, friends, people I have known only online up until that point, and some just brand new faces. So it was a great time. I will probably leave the heft of that to Jess, who did a lot of really cool things that weekend. And before that, I will move on to the other thing I have going on. The Beloved Nerds is a new TTRP streaming channel. And right now, there's nothing on the Beloved Nerds, but that will start shortly. However, there is a collaboration that we are doing with the Onyx Path. We have started a very cool game of Scion, and that is every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Onyx Path. So that's very exciting. Onyx Path also has a sort of online Onyx PathCon coming up. One of these weekends, I'm actually going to check because it might be before this episode comes out. And if that's the case, we can cut this. Let me look. No,
We really hope
maybe.
you...
I don't know. It is the 16th through the 19th of June.
Nice.
No,
That's a couple
I
of
can
weeks.
I can edit. Yeah, I can edit and have this up by then. We're good.
Yeah! All right, everyone. So Onyx PathCon, the 16th through the 19th of June on the Onyx Path, their Twitch. It is basically a bunch of one-shots with all of their IPs. So I'm going to be in like 4 or 5 games that weekend.
Wow.
Because why not? And there's going to be a lot of the creators as well of these games, like Eddie, who is a creator of Pugmire, is going to be running a Pugmire game that I'm going to play in. I'm so excited. I've never played Pugmire before, but like adventure dogs, okay? And yeah, just a lot of people who have been involved in the creation of these different things now are going to be running and playing over this weekend. So it's definitely something worth checking out. I will repeat one more time. That is the 16th through the 19th. Or actually, I think it's the 16th through the 18th of June. It is that weekend. And that's going to be great. So check out the Onyx Path for that. Also check out the Onyx Path every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Scion. And stay tuned to the Beloved Nerds, because things like our Vampire the Masquerade Fallen Angels Suite of Stories is coming to the Beloved Nerds probably end of this month. Which is June 2023 or beginning of July, and lots of other cool stuff's popping up there now. So very exciting. I think that's all I've got. So lots of cool stuff in the works. And I'm going to ping pong over to Jess to talk more about UK Games Expo and some other cool stuff.
Oh, don't other cool stuff? You mean like nerd shit? Yeah, sure.
Nerd is cool now. Nerd is cool. I am
cool.
told being a nerd is cool now.
Yeah, you have been told.
But Jess, you're not a nerd, right? Like,
nah, I ain't one of them uncool nerds. I'm one of them cool nerds. I'm one of them dad nerds. I'm one of them lesbian dad nerds.
Lesbian dad nerds. For a nerd,
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month, everyone. For a nerd, I sure threaten to shove people in lockers a lot. But I guess we just go with what we know.
I always thought it was a term of endearment. That's why everyone was doing it to me. So, like...
Yeah, what up, nerds? Both of you. Nerds, my homie nerds, my hombres nerds, my muchachos nerdos.
You can come out of this bit at any time, Jess. You can just blink.
Nah, it's all right. Let me dig this hole deeper until I can't get out of it, and then I will cry for help.
Here's a rope, Jess. You can just exit the bit. It's fine.
It's all good. Hernandez nerdos. I don't know where we're going. Is that a kind of potato? I don't know where we've gone. So yeah, UK Games Expo was fun.
Yay!
And if anyone is wondering, we are recording this the Monday directly after UK Games Expo. If you're wondering why we're all just a little extra slap happy, it's that.
Yeah. It was an absolutely phenomenal time. We had a really busy weekend. So myself and Paul Foxcroft, the amazing Paul Foxcroft, the inevitable Paul Foxcroft, is that enough titles for him? Who knows? We went down on the Friday and came back on the Saturday evening. But the Friday, we managed to meet up with a bunch of folks, got mingling, got chatting, got to have a really good look at the convention center and the layout. And it's huge. It was massive this year. The last time I was there was in 2019. Question mark. And since then, I haven't been back. This year, we came back to help produce the Of Dice and Them podcast that was being live recorded in the Dice Room at the Piazza of the Convention Centre. And Paul was performing as one of the honorary guests that they occasionally have on. It was a riot. And CJ and a bunch of our friends as well were kind enough to come along and support. It was a pretty full room considering it's like a relatively small podcast. But the energy and the atmosphere was there. It was a really lovely day, and it couldn't have gone any better if we tried.
There was someone in the audience with an absolutely glorious laugh. Just phenomenal, like exactly the person you would want in a live recorded anything. And I couldn't help but notice and appreciate that. And just like he needs to be an official like live recording attender, because it was just like as soon as something funny, he was like, ha! And it was just oh, it was beautiful. It was brilliant. Never change. If you're probably never going to listen to this podcast, my friend. And even if you do, you might not know this is about you. But if you are listening to this podcast, never change.
This is what you need in like podcast recordings: is someone with like a big belly laugh somewhere at the back of the room, just reverbing. Like, we make a list of those people. I have that guy's name. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I know exactly who you are referring to. And he is on officially a list of mine now, so that whenever we do live events again, we'll be like, yeah, let's just book him down for a free ticket. It'll sound good.
Can you sit next to this audience microphone? In fact, if you just hold it for a bit and just like even a couple of chuckles, just get those in there as well.
It sounds silly, but genuinely, when I used to produce comedy, it's what we used to do. We would give free tickets away if we had them to people who we knew had good laughs. Sounds ridiculous. It makes or breaks a recording sometimes if you have that proper laugh track that sounds super authentic, and people who know when to laugh, it makes it. But that is comedy,
engagement.
And that is an entire time. Yes! People love to know when to laugh. And if they're like, oh, people here are laughing, I will laugh at it. Psychology as well. There's an entire backstory behind it. But ultimately, the podcast went really well. It was complete chaos. It almost didn't happen. There was a point on the Friday evening where we assumed the DM Jack, the kind DM Jack, I think he is on Twitter, had broken down And it was looking touch and go at half time, but we managed to get him all the way up to Birmingham at like 2 in the morning or whatever it was. It was tight.
When you said that he'd broken down, I was like, that's a little personal, and then I realized you were talking about his car.
We are in the correct space awesome. For it to have been either one. But all of the performers and the cast of Dice and Them absolutely smashed it. They all had a wonderful time. Paul nailed it as well, as per usual. He was his fabulous self. And then after that, we actually had a little bit of downtime to go and play some games, which I didn't do. Instead, it was more mingling. It was finding bunches of people and being like, I know you from online, and I know you from here, and let's hang out and let's do this. Which is pretty much how we got to hang out with Mr. Alexander T Stangroom of Kobold Press. They have their Kickstarter Tales of the Valiant, which undoubtedly anybody listening to this will probably already know of. But Tales of the Valiant has just not only surpassed their Kickstarting goal, I think they are into the final stretch goals of it. They have raised $800,000, which is no small amount of money.
That's nuts. I love it.
The original it's £80,000. I don't know what that is in dollars, but they have
probably
raised
like $100,000 or so.
Yeah, so Kobold Press were flying high at the convention that weekend. On top of that, we also my big thing at the moment is I love playing Magic the Gathering. The Warhammer 40k commander decks, I think they are beautiful and brilliant. In particular, the Necron deck. It's a mono black deck, and I'm a fan. The engine works. I get it. Necrons were there. So many Necrons were there.
I saw a lot of Necron cosplayers. So I was like, oh, Jess will like that.
Oh, mate! I immediately practically ran up to them and. It was thank you, the Silent King, thank you so much. Pictures. Which was made all the better because we on the second day went to the convention with Nate Crowley, who is author for the Black Library and focuses a lot on Necrons. And so the minute that we told him that there was a Necron there, I'm not joking, he ran. I mean, just bolted off into the crowd. It was beautiful. It was like releasing a deer into the wild. It was lovely.
I think if there's anything I had worked on and someone was like, hey, there's a thing here from the thing, I would be gone in 2 seconds. Be like, you've lost me.
Exactly. Goodbye. And the most beautiful thing about it was he ran off into the Necron wilderness, and the Necron asked him for an autograph, and it just felt like I was like, yes. But it also highlighted to me that actually there are loads of authors that would do really well at UK Games Expo, and what we're looking at maybe doing next year is taking a bunch of authors as well. And I'm going to have to run it by the production team, but it would be really cool to get some amazing authors from like Warhammer and other franchises down so that people can meet them and get stuff signed and have a nice time, because all of the authors are generally really nice, especially those that write about Necrons. I love you. Please just you know where I am.
Give
online.
Me more Necron stuff.
Please give me Necron. Whatever you got, guys. Whatever you got. You got that sweet Necron stuff. Yeah, I need it. But yeah, so that's the plan for next year. But I didn't get a chance to play any games. All I managed to get in like a last minute spree was the Asia and Oceania Wingspan expansions. The Wingspansions. So now I have the complete set. It's like the Triforce is complete, and I'm happy and content.
They sell a box, a nesting box. It's this giant box, and it has organizational stuff. And it doesn't have anything except a giant box and organizational stuff, but it is official, and you can put all of your expansions into one giant box.
CJ, don't tell me this.
I saw that at UKGE, and I was like, oh my god.
I was so complete.
Well, all you're missing is a box.
All I'm missing is a box, but I am still missing this box. We can chat. I'm just going to be on Amazon for a quick minute.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. We did get to play a couple of games. We played Lorcana, which is coming out a couple of weeks from now. It is a Disney trading card game. It's very good. We had the demo. Some things I really liked about it, actually. One thing I really liked about it is that you don't have the issue, like you might have in some other games, where you're trying to get your pool of resources before you can play anything. Basically, there's two types of cards as far as your playable cards. Some of them have a gold ring around their cost, and some of them don't. If they have a gold ring around the cost, you can play it into your inkwell, which is basically your mana pool. And
Very
it
nice.
becomes part of your ink. It is a little more simplistic in some ways, but something about that is a little bit of appealing, because even though you can use some strategy, it's more like I can sit down and play this game with my friends, have a good time, and then walk away from it and not spend the next 60 hours trying to build a deck. So
Yeah.
there's pros and cons, but I really enjoyed it. It's definitely something where I'd like, oh yeah, I'd build a deck for that and play it. I probably wouldn't be, oh, new stuff has come out, I have to get it. Oh, new stuff is, but I think it's really enjoyable. You're basically playing your characters, and then your characters can journey, maybe?
Yeah.
That might be the term that you...
That sounds like a Disney term.
I said, does this card go into play tapped? And they told me not to swear. So... It's exerted. The card is exerted if it is, yeah. So, but basically you can journey with your character, which gets you points. You're trying to get 20 points to completion. However, if you're not journeying with your character, another thing you can do is attack someone else's character if the character has been exerted, and you're trying to keep them from gathering those points, essentially. So, yeah, it's fun. It's not too hard to get a hold of. Lorcana, we also got cool pins for playing, which was exciting. Other ones we played, Cheese Thief, because my partner saw it and just fixated on it until we were able to play it. And that is very simple. You're dealt a card, and one of you is the cheese thief, and you all close your eyes. You roll a dice, and 1 through 6, whatever time it is, or whatever number it is the time that you're supposed to wake up. You have to, if you are the cheese thief, you have to steal the cheese, even if someone else wakes up at the same time as you, and they'll see you, and then and then at the end you all have to confer and decide who the cheese thief is.
You roll a 1. Everybody who rolls a 1 opens their eyes at the same time and
takes and then so here's what happened. The best round. It was myself, my partner Lucy, and our friends Jordan and James. And I believe that Jordan woke up at 2, obviously opened his eyes, cheese was still there, he was not the cheese thief. You can also look under one person's cup to see what their time is. So he presumably did that. Went back to sleep. 2 rolls around, it's myself and James. We look at each other, no one reaches for the cheese. And so... well, that's fine, and you get a 10-second countdown. So I'm like, I nod towards my partner, and then I nod to him to look under Jordan's cup, and we both look under, the cups, and we see that one was at 2, and one is at 6. And we're like, well, shit. My partner must be the cheese thief. Close the eyes. My partner has her turn. Comes time to discuss. I'm like, well, James and I were awake at the same time, so it's not us. It wasn't gone when we woke up, so it's not Jordan. So obviously it's Lucy, my partner. We accuse Lucy, who's like, it's not me. It's definitely not me. Which is also what she says when it isn't her, but it's also what she says when it is her. So you can't know.
Consistency.
The cheese thief was not Lucy. Here is the missing information. My friends, split seconds before the end of the round, I closed my eyes. And that is when James took the cheese.
I'm not glad. I can't lie. I was secretly rooting for James the entire time.
And we were just like, what?
Oh my god! Thank God he's not playing a rogue in our campaign.
I know.
Fuck.
That was, and the person demoing it was like, "I've never seen that happen before."
I don't trust this man anymore.
I think I looked at him and I went, I think actually you're the big. I think Francois the big bad in our campaign, which would be a great segue onto our next topic. But first, Sam, I'd like to hear what you've been up to.
I decided to have a migraine at home instead of going to UK Game Expo.
Yay!
No, I was genuinely fatigued and we had a lot to do at the house, so I was like, we'll go next year. So my body was like, hey, you're taking some rest. It's migraine time, my boy. So I did a bit of that. Yeah, it's fine. But I was really excited to see that everyone managed to meet up at the Games Expo, and it was just, I saw lots of lovely photos of everyone like, hey, it's been a whole week since we've seen each other. So
this week has been hell, man. It was so long. I had a 3-day pass and I ended up only going for Saturday, so que sera, but it'll be a blast next year.
Yep, for sure. If we can all get down together and boogie, I would like that very much. But yeah, so you never know. They have, to anyone watching who is keen to get involved with UK Games Expo, they have a bunch of live performance spaces. So if you've got a podcast, like a couple of Dickatedu or anything else, you can probably, they do seminars, they do talks, they do all sorts. You can submit your ideas and how you would like to maybe influence an entire room full of people on how to do game design, for example, or just talk about your favorite thing for a bit. I forgot to tell you, Sam, that we ran into, it's all right, never mind. Oh wait, no, he's here. He's looking up. I thought you were frozen. Because you just weren't moving.
Stoic.
I thought he was dead.
I take notes with a very serious face. Okay.
I do apologize. I thought you'd ceased living. We ran into Chris Gossett, who was there.
What?
Yeah, Chris Gossett was there. But he was there lining up for a talk about game design. How to build your own games, because he makes his own games. So
he does, yeah.
It helps. And so it's an educational tool as well as an entertainment tool. Highly recommend the process to anyone looking to go. You can find pretty much everything on the website. I believe now it's easier to find. Do not quote me on that. It's board games, not internet games for a reason. I don't know what that means. But take a look, check it out. If you've got something that you're passionate about that you think you could make into an educational or entertaining.
Infotainment works. I like it.
If you're infotainment, go UK Games Expo. See what you can do. Teach me something. God knows I need it. That would be great. Thanks. But yeah. Big old thumbs up from me.
I have a couple of questions about the Games Expo, because as I say,
yes.
I didn't manage to go. Mm-hmm. One, I saw people doing reenactment or something outside the Games Expo, and I was very confused.
There was a whole reenactment village just outside. It was sanctioned by the Games Expo. It was
Yes, every year they do a Viking get-together. It's and I can't remember which company it is. I want to say it's Empire, but that doesn't sound right.
I'm not sure. Obviously, when I hear reenactment, I first think it might be like the SCA, but I'm not sure who was out there, but it was very cool. I walked past it, but not like in a bad way, but in a, it's the end of the day and I'm very hungry way.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of it next time, because it looked pretty nifty.
It's the Living Village. That's what it's called. The Living History Village.
Living History Encampment.
Yes. And they have I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to butcher it for a laugh. Hnaftafal. Hnaftafal contest. Yeah. That sounds right. But yeah, they get together and I thought it would be like, gentle axes and considered spikes and
spikes.
We'll hit each other briefly with swords. Nah, they were going in for the kill. They were just battering the shit out of each other. It was amazing.
Plus, and this is off the website, plus the chance for children aged 11 and under to have a go at combat training and battle Vikings. So if you've got child under the age of 11, and they haven't yet had their first taste of blood, which is really sad in the UK schools system, that they don't get the chance for the first kill before
I
that
don't know,
age.
I've heard some stories.
Timestamp 25 minutes, edit out. Okay.
Oh, you don't want to hear the story about the 2x4?
Yeah, so I was confused because I obviously saw people cosplaying. I was like, cosplaying, mint, excellent. I saw loads of people like the part of Twitter that I'm engaging in was just alive with people having a great time that weekend. I was like, oh, it's just nice. Oh, sorry. Oh, my brain. Yeah, that's good. So that's what I was like most of Saturday. And yeah, it just looks lovely. And I'm excited to go when I can next go. And I'm really glad that everyone was able to go. And you were able to do the of Dice and Them. And it all went swell. Yeah, it just sounds great. I managed to go to, as I mentioned on previous podcast, I managed to go to Dicini, which gave me a bit of the con fix. I have signed up for another Norwich based games convention. They don't have any board game tables left. I said, I'll run Lancer, and they went, that's great, we've run out of tables. And I was like, I'll get you next year.
That's impressive, though, actually.
Yeah. They were just like,
sign.
The organizer sent me an email saying, we don't have anyone playing this game, and that would be really cool, except we've run out of tables. You're free to like organize it on one of the like, here are some free tables, but like it's not one of the stands. I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll have to see what that's like.
I'm thinking about attending a convention, one-day convention that's, I think, either run or sponsored by Modifius. It's in London called Dragon Meet.
Oh, Dragon Meet!
Ooh,
Yeah,
yes.
and it is in December. A
Yes.
friend of mine who works for Modifius was like, you've got to go. And I was like, let me look at yeah, I can. So
Yeah.
apparently I'm going to that now. It looks like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so it's just down the road from us, which is really nice. Literally a straight shot down the road.
Nice.
It's the London Novotel? Hilton Novotel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Something like that.
Novotel
Yeah.
Hammersmith.
That's the boy. But yeah, it's a really good selection of stalls generally, and I think last we were there, we had Rowan Rook and Deckard really stood out to us. Grant was there, signing a bunch of stuff. What else was there? My brain has
Yes.
been filled full of new con stuff, and all old con stuff has gone out of the window.
I actually got to interact with Rowan Rook and Deckard at
Yay!
UK Games Expo. They're really nice people. They're just
Yeah.
Oh,
really
nice.
chill. And I bought some of Grant Howitt's one-page RPGs from them because the physical copies have secret backs that are not on the digital copies, and I got really excited about that. Also, I've run The Witch is Dead on stream already and planning to do Honey Heist, so I thought it was about time that I put some money toward that talented person.
Honey Heist, one of my favourite one-shot RPGs.
Also, there's one from 2016, 2017 from the first year called Big Gay Orcs, and I feel like I need to run that this month, possibly. So,
It's not
Oh
a
my
bad
gosh.
idea. Oh, I like this idea a lot. There's also Sexy Battle Wizards, which is...
I was about to say, we played Sexy Battle Wizards, which my partner still jokes about some of the mechanics in that every now and again. Just like, there's no time for that now, which is just
beautiful.
so good.
I will let you guys
really
know
checking.
how Big Gay Orcs goes, or possibly, as it would be a one-shot, and everyone's very busy this month. If you want to play Big Gay Orcs on Ink and Lyre, like, you know, maybe I'll get you guys involved as well, and then we'll let the podcast know how it goes.
I want to be a big gay orc. Yes, please.
Okay, noted.
Done.
Let's make it happen.
Woohoo.
Speaking of making things happen, this is not as good of a segue as my earlier segue.
Speaking of big gay orcs,
Speaking of
we
big
move
gay
on.
orcs, actually, that's a slightly better segue somehow. We don't have any orcs yet, but
Yet.
there's been a mentioned, I believe there's been a mentioned half-orc.
I don't know.
Yes.
Has there? Yeah, this seamlessly segues us into our Dragonlance campaign that we are all presently playing and
Yeah.
having a lovely time in.
Such a good time.
The Fast and Furious friendship that we have forged along the way was solidified the other weekend when we all got together and got to play in person for the first time.
in
honest...
a very pretty, like, reconstructed chapel in Cornwall, which sounds fancy pants, but when you split the money, the amount that it would have cost between 8 people, it's slightly more
reasonable.
every man. Yeah,
Very good.
It was so reasonable, and it came with the spiral staircase, 4-poster beds. We had tiling. Oh, the wooden, I don't know. The entire atmosphere of the house really suited everything that we needed. The pews that we kept stubbing all of our goddamn feet on. Just need that little bit of pain to make everything else more sweet.
Yes.
But it was...
My toes reflexively hurt from you mentioning the pews. But
it was
just for context, there was this wonderful, like, kind of farmhouse table in the middle of this beautiful kitchen, and then they've repurposed some pews for you to sit around, but they obviously don't move very much, and there's not much wiggle room between the cabinets and the tables. There was enough for, like, us to move around, but obviously, you know, as soon as you get your dice trays out and your bags, you just fill up the space, and then everyone was like, oh, I'll just shove past and break toes open on these things.
They just came out. They came out an unreasonable amount. You know how a regular chair, a normal good old-fashioned chair, is just like an up-down
just
kind of
up
job.
and down.
Yeah.
These were not.
I like an up-down chair. I know where I stand with an up-down chair. These pews were out for blood because they came out like a fucking plateau, but in reverse. And I wanted to cry. Like, there was a point where I went around in socks. It was really hot, and I was going around in socks because I was really concerned I was going to stub my fucking toes on these goddamn pews. But it was, again, I still think they added to the atmosphere of everything. I think having everyone around the table for the first time in that environment, it changed so much for me.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about it?
No, yeah, I definitely felt it was completely different, but it was a lot of fun. I just had to kind of look at it like, this is a different sort of atmosphere, different, like almost a one-shot with our characters sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it in that context. It was just so much fun to be in person with everyone.
I've forgotten how much eye contact changes a scene when you are playing. And if you mean something and you look someone dead in the eye and you can see so much more in them. When you're saying something, they react, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, no, visceral reaction is happening. I can glean something from this. Yes! And then maybe you hurt, maybe you don't. But I know I think I had a moment with James where we were looking at each other across the table about a thing. It was Wall and Francois. Wall effectively trying to console Francois in a way and make him feel like the revelation that he had laid bare to Wall was okay. And the look that he had in his eyes made me realize very quickly that nothing I could say would change a goddamn thing.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I mean, we get some of it over video, but there's so much physicality that can be lent to playing. And playing in person is just, you know, I think there are pros and cons to every type of play. But it's just the physicality of being there and having a full interaction with someone is very, very cool.
Yep.
It's very pleasing to swear at your dice in person for everyone else to be like, to see all your rolls. Yeah, I had a lot of rolls because I've gone for a very action-heavy character, so he just gets to roll a lot, which did mean for the statisticians at home, I had a lot of bad rolls because I also had a lot of good rolls because I was just rolling a lot of dice. But yeah, just for one round, I was like, miss, 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 miss. And I was like, fuck. But like for the previous 3 rounds, I was like, very high hit, very high hit. And I'm like, yep, that's normal. This is how things will work. And then I did find myself falling into the superstition of like putting all my dice. So the crit success faces on the top. So obviously all the plastic particles drift to the bottom.
Yeah, that's how that works.
And weigh it down. Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
Yep.
That's how you charge your dice.
Yep.
Who brought... CJ, did you bring the dice chair to shame the dice?
Yeah, Lucy got me.
So nice.
It's a timeout chair. She got it for me for a holiday at one point, and I've just had it sitting around, and I was like, dice shame chair time. And we just put it there, and whenever dice was particularly mean, it went in the timeout chair.
We had a lot of them. We had a lot of them in the dice chair.
I stacked 3 die on that chair through one round.
I think it was a perception check I did that was a nat 1, and that dice, I was too ashamed for it to go on the chair, and I just very succinctly put it in Paul's pocket.
I have to say something that has popped up naturally that is freaking hilarious to me is that I almost never roll a nat 1. And what's funny about that is I have essentially, it's a homebrew, but I essentially have a wild magic table. But
oh yes,
but like I pretty much never roll a nat 1 when I'm trying to cast a spell. However, every single time I take watch, I roll a nat 1. Every single time. I already don't have dark vision because of homebrew stuff, so it's just like, why am I even trying? And so my character is now just canonically terrible at taking watch.
It's all right, we haven't died yet, so we don't know that you're bad at taking watch. We just assume you've done your job. We don't know that you're actually blind in the dark, like most normal human fighters.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you know, it's actually really funny because I feel like I was playing. What was I playing? Ooh, I was playing. Maybe it was Through the Breach. I think it was Through the Breach. I was playing, and we were in a completely dark atmosphere. And he's like, "You can't see." One person was like, "I can see in the dark," and I was like, "Wow, this is the complete opposite of Dungeons and Dragons." Like in Dungeons and Dragons, everyone's like, these are the 2 people without night vision, and everyone else can see.
How's it going, Humies?
Yeah.
What do you need? A lamp? Get out. Yeah, I think like this weekend was just perfect. We also got to dress up as our characters a little bit. We kind of like, and we did a little photo shoot. It's very nice. But I think like it's been a real testament to how much we've enjoyed the campaign. So I think we wanted to. I know we've mentioned it on a few episodes, like what's kind of happening. But I think now would be an interesting point for us to just have a look at how we feel about the game, some of the source material, and just kind of go through it in a bit more of a deconstructed way, just kind of figure out how we feel. So I've popped in some notes. It's important to realize that Dragonlance is an existent setting. I can't remember which edition of D&D it came in, but it's obviously a
series of novels by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Thank you very much. 5 points to CJ.
And they have been around for a while, these novels, and there are many of them, and they are prolific. There's a lot of Dragonlance novels. For anyone who is not familiar with Dragonlance, there's a lot of Dragonlance novels.
The original systems appear to have come in AD&D, so this is first/second edition systems. Yeah. I didn't realize they went back that far.
Wow, me either. Although I did kind of sort of realize the novels went back to around those dates, so I should have put 2 and 2 together, but I didn't. So
I've just clicked on Margaret Weiss's website to get the idea of how many Dragonlance novels there are. They're in collections, so you have Classic Dragonlance, Dragonlance Chronicles, Dragonlance Legends, War of the Souls, Dragonlance Dark Disciple, Dragonlance Lost Chronicles, and I think the Deathgate Cycle. Nope, that's a different thing. But there are a lot of books, and I've been reading because I got really jazzed when Jordan brought up the idea of running the campaign, and I was like, it's an excellent thing, and it's very, quote unquote classic D&D setting. So I wanted to kind of have a look at something that was not Tolkien-esque. I think I've seen a lot of TikToks of people going, there are 2 types of high fantasy. One going, oh, I wish all the dragons were still around, maybe one day. And the other type of high fantasy going, fuck, there's a lot of dragons, we gotta get them. And Dragonlance is the second one. It's an interesting book, obviously written in a period where, there are some things that maybe wouldn't gel well in a modern telling of the story, but it's...
You've got to know that some things were written at the time they were written and accept them at that face value.
Yeah.
Fantasy has come a long way in the last 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. But I've been reading them and I've been enjoying them. The way I'm reading the books, I genuinely don't know what's happening moment to moment. Like, I know like an overarching goal, but like, honestly, sometimes stuff just comes out of left field and I'm like, whoa. And it doesn't feel like completely out of the narrative. It's just really interesting things. It does feel like a D&D game where there's like small pockets of story that are happening over a long span to complete an arc, and they're just very disparate, and there's a lot of threat and danger. CJ, Lucy, and my partner were talking about the kind of the lore of Dragonlance on the way back, and we were talking about how the magic system and the wizards kind of exist in a kind of in a new contextual setting, because sometimes wizards get away with being like, oh, they're just spooky people over there. But Dragonlance is basically like, hey, we know what all the magic users do. There aren't a lot of them, and they do very certain things. And that was a really interesting way to kind of delineate between them. They're not kind of like schools of magic per se, but they're kind of like the idealistic. They're in the same way that you would have school knight kind of groups of knights or armies. They are idealistic and they have certain goals, and kind of delineating them by that means you've got some crowbars to like get into the plot.
Yeah, and obviously, one thing that I have found is that the setting for Dungeons and Dragons, the one we're looking at now, 5e, is designed that it doesn't need to be as stringent as the lore for the world necessarily is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting because basically you've got the three moons, Solinari, Lunitari, and Nuitari, and they represent the three different sort of schools of magic, gods of magic, Solinari being one that is good, and traditionally those people use their magic for good, and that's it. They are meant to be fully selfless. And then you have Lunitari, who's the neutral one, and people in that area do tend to use more, not necessarily just for self fulfillment, but there's more of a mix there with the Lunitari. And in the 5e setting, it is said that it is the god of neutrality and illusion. And then the last one is Nuitari, which is the people who, now they all work for this, in the mage tower, right? But the Nuitari are known to serve their purposes first, and the High Mages second. So they are very much more driven by their own goals, and the one thing is that they're supposed to not really have any qualms about any specific kind of magic. They're happy to use any kind of magic to achieve their goals. So one thing that's really interesting that I've seen no sign of it carrying over to the D&D setting, but one thing that's particularly interesting, as I understand about these schools of sorcery, is that you become, now this is canon for the 5e setting. You become a initiate first, and then an adept, and at some point you have to undergo the test of high sorcery. The little test that they go through at the beginning is not that. That's just a like, are you even worth like anything? Like,
are you awake?
Are you good? Like, I guess there are some people who show magic that have no real promise of being, anything except, you might be able to mend your clothes with magic and stuff. And so the sorcerer, the mages don't bother with them. So you've got this sort of initiation sort of thing to see if they give a crap about you. And then sometime later on, you have the test of high sorcery. The test of high sorcery is apparently incredibly dangerous, and people do not leave without scars. Whether some of them lose their life, some of them lose limbs, some of them get very traumatized. Like, it's supposed to be very, very bad. And the reason this is interesting and important is because toward the beginning of the Dragonlance series, one of the characters you meet has just gone through that and has been, like, irrevocably changed. So, which I will say as a side note, because it's a funny side note, but you two have already heard this story, so I don't need to do the whole setup. when I was much younger, an ex of mine, when we were together, her mother really loved Dragonlance. And she said, "You really need to read Dragonlance. We really like it. There's one character that reminds me of you. It's this character whose name is Rastlin, who is a very frail wizard and also, like, kind of just like, I feel like we were talking about this, Sam and I. I think Rastlin is very aware of the meta."
Yeah. Raslin knows he's in a campaign and he knows he can't revisit locations more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely goes for those magic items and stuff. And I was like, "Kathy, I do not know what you're trying to say to me about me, but I do know that Rastlin is one of your favorite characters, so I'm going to take it as a compliment." But let me tell you, the more I read Dragonlance, the more the more confused I get. Because I'm just like, what? I'm him? So, but anyway, the Towers of High Sorcery, I think the one last thing that I was getting at that I got sidetracked because I was talking about the test of initiation and stuff like that. But the one thing that is in the narrative that I haven't necessarily seen being thoroughly brought into the 5e setting, which I think makes sense because it's a little stringent, is that if you become a mage of the white robes or a mage of the red robes or a mage of the black robes, but you use too much magic outside of your area of study, you can be brought in for trial.
Shit.
Yeah, and it can be anything from a slap on the wrist, don't do it again, to literally you get killed. So
we'll see how Jordan rolls it. Yeah. I mean,
let's just say I have not been sticking to one school of magic, friends. So
spicy.
Yeah, scary. But yeah, it's to bring that back full circle. It is a very built out lore for the mages, and it is different than pretty much, at least a little bit notably different than pretty much any other setting that I have imbibed. That's not the right word.
No, I get you have quaffed from the pool of different sci-fi. Yeah, it's in the future. Got you.
Post-apocalyptic.
Fancy.
Well, actually.
Well, it's, I mean, I was interested because Jess, I don't know whether you've been able to examine a lot of like the external material before you jumped into the campaign, and I wanted to know whether that's affected how you enjoy it.
Literally nothing. I decided to go in feet first with this and figure it out as we went along, because it's not. I've got such a long reading list at the moment. While I wanted to, I was like, there's so much other stuff that I've got such limited time. It feels like over the next couple of months that I kind of want to prioritize some other bits first. So I didn't take a look at any of the source material back in sort of January when we started. And
I'll also say really quickly that our DM and everyone as a group kind of did agree that this was going to be loose.
Yeah.
That we don't need to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Dragonlance universe to play.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great way to jump into this sort of setting.
Absolutely. I think from what I know, sort of the Dragonlance purists of old would be real fucking mad at the idea that I was playing a cleric. The whole idea of you get power from anything but magical power in that regard from anything other than from the High Mage Towers or from the schools of magic that they represent, the moons. It's something frowned upon by them, seems to be the general consensus, but I don't give a fuck, because Jordan's made it so easily navigationable.
Yes!
Navigationable! No, it's easy to make sense of.
No, and it exists. It exists in that setting in 5e, so the book would say, please no clerics if they didn't want that.
Yeah,
so,
but also you guys enjoy healing, so this is I was going to sit on the sidelines and be like, maybe I could be a knight. Maybe I could be something a little bit more mainstream. But I think at the end of the day, I play support characters very well. I'm not a jump into battle head first and go hammer and tongs kind of player. Much prefer a Healy. I prefer a Healy boy, as such, cleric just seemed to
Although
make
Wall's a
sense.
tank.
Yeah, I don't want her to die. she's got a shield, she's got spells, and she's got, I think, a gun. I don't know.
She's a ward cleric, isn't she?
She's a warcaster,
Yeah.
but she's not like I think Francois has pretty much maxed his character around the warcaster feat, and then been able to build off of that to a point where when he starts casting, you cannot fucking stop him. He pops the wings, flies into battle, and will eviscerate anything in his path. Whereas I'm a little bit more hodgepodge, which is the only reason I've taken it is so that if I get damaged, should anyone break through the glorious mighty AC 18, then I can still continue to heal people because I've got the Warcaster allows you to make advantage on Constitution saving rolls to keep a concentration spell in check. So that's pretty much it.
Back up for 2 seconds because it strikes me that we may have some people who aren't familiar with our campaign listening. Our party, we have Wall.
Buenos
who
noches.
is and you are a cleric, right?
He is.
Yeah.
We're just checking in on that
Yes, very much in Furbolg cleric because I wanted to piss off all Dragonlance purists. Furbolgs, baby, yeah.
Furbolg cleric.
Furbolg cleric, and very happy about it.
And we have Valaris.
Hey! I've gone for an Eldritch Knight because I've been building a lot of fight. I really like martial archetypes in D&D, and this is my first playing character in a very long time. And I was like, hey, why not make it difficult for myself as well?
Smart.
And I like the idea of an Eldritch Knight because, magic is sparse in this setting, but I just like the idea of Shadow Wizard Money Gang, flinging spells. So yeah.
We have Francois, who is Warcaster.
Yes, Warcaster, cleric of Paladin.
Paladin.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's Paladine. I looked it up, and it said D-I-N-E, and it did not elaborate. It was the pronunciation guide, and it was like Pala, D-I-N-E. And I'm like, well, is that Dean or Dine? But then I thought if it was Dean, it would be D-E-E-N. It does not matter. This is an aside. I was just personally offended.
I think in my head, I hear it as Palamine. Because you're a Palamine.
No!
If you're with Paladine.
I'm just reminded of
Paladin.
I'm just reminded
whatever.
of Christopher Eccleston's
Paladine.
Doctor Who, and he'll just go, lots of worlds have a north. So there's, accent changes.
Dwarf, but with some ASMR flavoring. Very, very, very interesting character there. We can revisit that. We also have Ranger, who is a Kaganesti.
Drake Warden.
Kaganesti Drake Warden. So the elves of North Urgoth are known as the Kaganesti, which I always forget because obviously they're the least important. That's false.
This is absolutely followed up by the Sylvanesti elf of the group, played by CJ.
I'm the Qualinesti. So a little bit about elf lore.
Wow. Jess, I can't believe.
Which, as I understand it, so take it with a grain of salt, the Kaganesti elves were actually the original elves. Elves at one point were nomadic. I'm doing this very fast because I don't want to just lore drop for the next 10 minutes. Kaganesti elves were the original elves, were nomadic. And they remained nomadic, and they remained over there, and they didn't really establish a society the way the Sylvanesti and the Qualinesti. So, Kaganesti, nomadic. Then you have the Sylvanesti. They were elves that established a society. Valaris is our Sylvanesti elf.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh no,
yes.
I'm an elf racist. Shit.
Yes.
Oh.
They are... I'll tell you what, you're okay, because the Qualinesti elves split off from the Sylvanesti peacefully. Basically, they had been on the outskirts doing some things. They kind of established their own vibe, and they're kind of the brother of the head of the Sylvanesti was like, hey, can I start my own elves? And they were like, sure. And that's how the Qualinesti, or Colinesti elves, I don't know how to pronounce it, started. So really the Colinesti and the Sylvanesti are very closely related. And as I understand it, they're descendants of the Kaganesti elves. So there we go. Elf lore.
This is why the cleric crew looks down on all of the elves. All of you
listen.
fucking
Listen, you
nerds.
chose your
You
character height, Jess.
I
You
say
can't do
that.
that shit.
But Francois has not looked down on me once.
And can't.
I could
'cause
I
it's
could
a
put him
joke.
on my shoulders.
Because
No, he has. Boy's got wings. Boy's got wings.
Yeah,
Boy
he
has
could.
flown above you.
yes,
you
that's
elven
true. If we're being pedantic, fine. So Drake Warden, Kaganesti Drake Warden, very cool. Drake Warden was introduced for the 5e setting. I don't know if there was a like one for earlier settings, but it was introduced for the Dragonlance setting, and it gives you a little Drake companion, and your little Drake companion can do cool things like buff weapons. So that is Alder Buckthorn, Tree, as we know him
old
colloquially.
tree. Forgot about that.
And finally, really funny. Yeah, it's yep. Anyway,
Introduce yourself.
I forgot my name. I'm Karen.
Fuck yeah, that's the most Karen thing you could have fucking done at that point. My head is so full of knowledge, and yet the intelligence has just gone.
Intelligence and wisdom are different things according to the tarot reading that our DM did for our characters.
Yep, and as Karen proves every single day.
Listen. So, Kara is a Colonesti elf. I am a lunar sorcerer, so that is another thing that was introduced for the Dragonlance setting. It means that I choose at the start of my long rest which phase of the moon that I would like my bonus spells to be from that day. And I hope that I chose the right one, and that's that. But it is basically, standard sorcerer other than those cool little flavors, because that's my subclass. So, yeah. It's a really cool setting, though that's our party. So we have, often, while Francois and Valaris end up sort of frontline, our ranger is ranged.
Yep, fan of a tree. Is generally
Fan of a tree.
If there is any question of combat, the very first question will come from Francois, and it will start with a quick question, and then a quick question will be delivered, followed by Alda going, "Is there a tree?" And you can almost bet on it every single time that's what happens.
True. Ranged, very, very deadly with a longbow.
So good. It's an excellent build.
Scary. Alder is actually terrifying.
Yeah.
As long as you can get him firing with a longbow, he's terrifying.
He shot a man in the throat at close range, and the nat 20 that they rolled on that was beautiful, and just horrifying.
Yep.
I love that she juxtaposes this absolute deadly martial combat with it's pretty bad to kill people, right? Like
fucking firing arrows in every direction, hail of thorns like there's no tomorrow, and just being like, what do we all think about killing people? I am baby, and like, come on.
We all literally went, well, it's either you or them. So I guess he took it to heart.
Yep,
it's them. It's gonna be them.
Yep. So terrifying, absolutely horrifying. I actually have a lot of buff spells, which is something I've chosen, like either buff spells, like shield, that kind of thing. I have some good spells but most of them target one person. So something I'm thinking about is branching out into more area of effect spells. But prior to more recent, it was sort of like most of the time we were fighting, except for like one or two major battles, we were fighting like 4 people. And if 3 of our people are melee, area of effect is a bad idea. So, but I was noticing, how I was crafting care to kind of fit with that sort of thing. And I think everyone's done a little bit of, depending on what your character's potential abilities are, of figuring out how to work with the party.
Major adjustments. Oh,
Yeah, I think there was a lot of, especially after. So we'll if you listen, it's going to be spoiler territory for Dragonlance: Shadow of the Dragon Queen. If you're interested in playing the module, go pick it up. It's really good. I heartily recommend it, and you know, I think it's one of the best modules that I've been playing in, obviously, but there seems to be a lot of good stuff that, I might just pick it up to read. I think it's very fulfilling, and pretty much everyone who I've talked to about it goes, yeah, I'm having a great time. And that goes from very new players to players who've been playing since like first edition and AD. So it's like everyone's really enjoying it. And I think what's interesting is that we have assembled kind of like a well-balanced party, not only for like actual combat and gameplay and the stats kind of balance across the board, but also like we've got a fair range of like character backgrounds and archetypes that really do mean that, socially the group can do well in a number of different settings. And that I don't think we sat around and did that by design, because we did our characters in isolation. But our GM Jordan has been really good to tying our characters together, and we've been doing a really good job of either yes-anding or buying into each other's bits to kind of really bind the party around. You've heard us talk about it before on the show. We're doing great. Yeah. It's a lovely time.
It's a lot of fun.
We're amazing.
I did want to touch on the narrative. Because I believe we're not actually that far into the book, and we have been playing for about 6 months.
Yeah.
I believe we're about a third of the way through. We're a little over a third of the way. If what Paul has dropped as a hint is anything to go by. But yeah, from what I can tell, from his cryptic wordings and messages, a third of the way.
I do know that we're in, because I have the book and I've not let myself read anything but the first chapter, which is the sort of
Welcome
stats
to
and mechanics and like information about the new subclasses and things like that. And the languages that I should be able to speak and things like that. But past that, I think if I'm remembering the table of contents, I think it was like 3 chapters in. I might be talking out my ass because I've been purposefully trying not to look, but 3 or 4 chapters in.
I found it really compelling because it's, if you were to really distill it down, this module against other stuff that Wizards of the Coast have made, this is, if you were really going to be winnow it down, it's the same as the Tyranny of Dragons. Tiamat exists in the setting, you gotta go beat her up. Like, she's called something else in this setting, and there are different things, but it's effectively the same thing. You start in A-Town, you have to defend it from some stuff and going forwards. But the way that it's written, and obviously a lot of this is resting on George's talent as a GM, and obviously our party dynamic, but I bought way harder into defending the realm and a lot more of the personal bits than I have in other campaigns where, whilst I don't think I've ever murder hoboed, sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm fully, it doesn't feel like I am a person within this setting. It feels I am Sam playing a character who is here. Whereas, like, especially that early Vogler setting where we were just kind of mooching around town, doing some fun stuff, that was such a good way for us to, like, flex some RP, but also to kind of get an understanding that, these are real people that we're trying to save here.
Buy-in, yeah. I think it's really good with buy-in.
It was perfect as a setting to establish a baseline within the group and who is what and how, in terms of, like, alignment, arrangement. There were things like the fishing festival gave everyone a good indication of how their magic is used and their strength checks. Was it Constitution? No, it was strength checks. And getting an idea of how, like how strong everyone is, how willing to use magic they are, how against our common enemy Fishboy we all were.
Benabog the line breaker.
Benabog the line breaker, the loin breaker. It was perfect in terms of giving an entire group a perspective of a single situation.
And I think we've got really interesting modular parts to our party. Like, obviously, we were in the groups that we traveled to Vogler with, and that's kind of been like a good in. Like, sometimes if something happens, you can kind of retreat back into that RP. So me and Jess have been real world friends for a very long time. So we were like, hey, our characters should be friends for a very long time.
Makes sense.
We can just play off like our actual in-person dynamic. That's fun. And then it was CJ and James, who were like a group, and like as a pair, just so much like interesting backstory stuff that's like waning and waxing. It's just really interesting to see you two like come back again and again and check in and see how you're doing. And then
I think what's so interesting about that connection for me is that we decided very early on that the two decided to travel together and like, safety in numbers and things like that, but they like resolutely did not press each other on anything. And now, because things are coming out in the group, they're starting to go back to each other to check in about these things, just by virtue of having been together longer, I guess.
Yeah, it feels very cool. Like a natural way of storytelling.
Yeah,
you've formed a sort of very strong, very clear basis, and then throughout the campaign you've been able to go back and check and build and build and build and build and build, and it's really nice to see it sort of blossoming as a friendship.
It's really cool.
And to going to the next level. Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, Lucy, my partner who plays Alder, has made no small has had no qualms with announcing the fact that she ships it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, yeah, let's make them gay. Yeah.
Let's make them gay.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm playing the most objectively straight character, which is really strange. Because we did find out that's about to change. No, I mean, the thing is that, is he? But what we do know about Kier so far is that the only woman he's ever loved has died. So,
and that is recent knowledge. Like, your character CJ Kerim has been acting as somewhat of our narrator. So as Kerim is writing a journal so you're writing in character in this journal rather than just the session notes that you tend to write. We get little recaps from Kerim's perspective, and that can be really nice and refreshing to just see how did Kerim experience this and what happened. And obviously there are some things that Kerim's not always present for, so I always enjoy it. It feels very, gosh, I don't know, it feels like serial TV shows that I used to watch when I was much younger, where like a character would announce like, so and so's in a mood with me today and I don't know why. And just like
previously on.
Yes, that's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, and you're like, you dummy, I know why. Kiro, it's because you ate Sakura's cookies. Like, but
anyone from the outside looking in, having a nice time. And also, if you miss anything from the previous session, or just want to get like an itch scratched for there's something hiding within the party, the Kerim redacted. Like it's there, and so you feel like you're getting some of the story, not all of the story, from that character.
And it is all in there.
Yeah.
It is all in there. And I did that as a purposefully as a storytelling device. There was talk about it recently, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't have said redacted if I wasn't trying to drop that thread in. I would have just glossed right over it.
That's no important. We don't need to look at that.
Instead, I was like, no, there is a chunk here that I'm not reading to you. A lot of it is honestly still really vague because as I've discovered, Karis even KG in his fucking journal. But the last module of the party was Alder, who was on his own, but received an egg early in the campaign.
Egg.
And that became his Drake.
I know,
so
it's very cute.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I really like Alder traveling on his own to join the party, because it means that Alder can basically be the point of view. Like, if we were going to have a point of view protagonist, it means that they get to ask questions of each of our characters, because they literally haven't met anyone before.
Yeah.
So they get to ask quite interesting and leading questions
And he has.
to dive. And he has. To like pull out some story, and as you say, CJ, like sometimes leading those little hooks, especially like adding redacted into your journal, can be really interesting way to re-engage the players who are just searching through their notes and going, it says cheese, woman, 50 gold, question mark.
I've had, yep.
How dare you read from my nose? How dare you?
I will say my note-taking varies wildly depending upon what character I have. And so I've had those notes as well, where I'm just like, I don't know what this means. I particularly enjoy playing a real dumb character and just not taking notes. That can be fun sometimes.
No,
but Kara's not that, unfortunately.
No, we're a party of note-takers, it would seem. Is anyone else taking... I mean, obviously, like, we're all sort of in person sort of taking notes, but are any other characters taking notes? Do we know? Aside from myself and
Wall
Kier.
scribbles on small shreds of paper.
Yeah, there's that. But like, I don't think anyone
that.
else has really mentioned it. So I'm just thinking.
I find an interesting comparison to like Wall and Kerium, because obviously like Kerium has the journal, which is like a chronological list of things that are happening, and Wall, who's a character who has lived for a very long time, an unbelievable amount of time apparently, according to my character. Jess has literally gone like, this character's hundreds of years old. And my character's like, nope, fuck off, they don't. Not as like a no, and also, just as like a, this character doesn't believe that that's true.
Nah, get back to bed, Grandma. Fuck off. Like,
which is a great bit, by the way.
It's just funny to do, and I really enjoy like the notes, because like me knowing you as a person, you like have a lot of like kind of information that kind of like just surrounds you, and then you can take it back and reconstitute it and put it in a different order, and that's just how your brain works. And I find that a really interesting kind of thumbprint from Jess directly onto Wall.
My entire life is like one of those fucking conspiracy boards with all of the red string, and that's how I play every single character. If my character is going to jump to a conclusion, you fucking know that there is some newspaper clippings and red string somewhere that they've got like hidden. They'll open their jacket, it'll be on the inside like, hey Mac, you want to buy a conspiracy? Like, here it is, let's go.
I will actually say I've been able to watch Wall do that in real time and be like, I think that like she's come to this conclusion because this and this and this, and she's missing some information here,
massively.
And it's great. I love it.
The biggest plot holes imaginable, and we've done that sort of thing where Wall has just gone, no, this hole doesn't exist, clearly. That is fine. Look at the main things. Look at these. Ignore the void. Ignore that. This means the proof.
Oh, and I think it's great because it gives so much to play on, and it's positive. In character, it could lead us literally anywhere, but it gives us so much to do that it can't be anything but positive. It's so much fun. She gets some wild ideas.
She's just an old lady going off of a hunch. I'm playing her like my nan, basically. Like, if my nan gets an idea about something, she'll just go with it. She won't ask anyone for affirmation or question it. She's like, no, I have seen A and B, therefore C. Let's run towards that with wild abandon and care not for any of the consequences that may come. I
love it.
And that's it. She's just a nan. She's great.
If I could step further into allegory territory, I think the way that we've all designed our characters both narratively and gameplay wise, it seems like we're all cogs in a machine where we've intentionally knocked out a few of the teeth.
Yes.
And throughout the party, we've reconfigured how all these cogs fit together so everything still works. And we even had a sit-down discussion after a pretty disastrous combat where two of our characters were petrified, and we were pretty sure it was permanent. We talked about it last episode where Jess was pulling her hair out, but
distraught was the word. A full week spent agonizing over what might happen, and it turned out that the petrifying effect was temporary. It was fine.
It was temporary. B, we split the party a little bit because we tried an ambitious plan, and it happens. But we got a really interesting narrative moment where we go, hey, we're not all individuals here. We're actually a group of people trying to do a thing. And Karen raised a really interesting point of like, we're smart people. We know how to do this. Let's actually like plan and work together. And it does feel like Saturday morning cartoon show where they're like, hey, we should actually work together for once.
Like, wow, we're all really good at our individual powers, but if we work together, we'd be unstoppable.
It really, I feel like we were all waiting for Keir to be like, let's apply logic to the situation, shall we?
Valaris loved it, okay?
I did. I'm having so much fun playing a very earnest character who's very like it's pretty much me with like literally ears and a wig. So it's really interesting playing a very earnest character who I'm not trying to do anything dynamic, and I've deliberately laid all my cards out quite early in the campaign because I'm not good at keeping secrets or remembering them, which is the other key part of keeping secrets. So I was just so I laid out my characters, super objective quite early, and that played out quite well, and a lot of the other characters then got to react around it. But it means that it means that I'm very transparent as a character, and that means other people can then decide what that means. Like, he's very transparently pro the Knights of Solamnia, which are a definitely imperfect group of martial knights. And so what does that mean for people who've interacted with them?
I'm going to say this as vaguely as possible, just because we all know there's things Karen has been thinking of and stuff that he hasn't said out loud. But something I noticed today, or thought about today, that I didn't really think about before, is that the original one precipitating fact about this character that I started building the whole character around has been almost imperceptible in who he is now.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like it's something that I'm not going to share at the moment, which is why I said I was going to
redacted the most Keir quality.
the Keirest of Keir qualities. I don't know if it'll ever come up, and that's okay. But it was something that I was like, this is what I'm starting to build this character around. And by the time we're 4 or 5 months, 5 months into this campaign, I'm like, this actually had no bearing on him whatsoever. And I'm fascinated by that. I don't know if I've ever had that happen with a character before, and I'm happy about it. I'm not like, oh, I can't believe I didn't build it. I'm actually like, wow, that didn't matter at all. And it's what I started building the character on.
Hey, the campaign changes you. I
it's
think
true.
War never changes, but the Dragonlance campaign definitely does. With the irony.
I think that's an interesting point where we could make some summations. Like, if you had to like go, what do you feel? How do you feel about the campaign as it is now, and has it affected how you play? So, well, Jess, what do you think?
It's affected me as a human being. Fuck how I play. It has challenged me in terms of the way I play and build a character. It has made me realize that a campaign can make you feel things you didn't know you could feel for things that do not exist. And beyond that, it doesn't have to be in a world that you innately understand. It can be jump in, learn how it goes. You don't have to do all of the back reading. I think it's been a learning experience, but also a growth one as well, which has been real nice.
Yeah.
Aw.
Wow.
Also, I just want to second like how cool it is to have it reinforced that you don't have to have all of the info on a thing to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just shoot, that's really good.
Charge ahead, jump in, enjoy. Care not what anyone else thinks. Fuck the Dragonlance purists. I'm a cleric, I'm a furbolg, and I'm here. Come at me.
I think like also within our group is very special because we're allowing people who are really interested in the lore to like go away and do that, and it adds to the gameplay. We've mentioned several things that our GM has then had to go check, but also your kind of your own depth of knowledge hasn't been challenged at any point, and it's not a point of contention within the group. It's like, I forget some stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, yes,
no,
I'm rambling.
absolutely. Also, just that everyone is on board with people being at different levels of wanting to read encyclopedias, and I love that.
Yes. CJ, I pass the question to you now.
All right.
How do you feel the point of the campaign is, and has it changed? You alluded to it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I should have seen early on that point at which I started building the character would not have a lot of weight to it, or a lot of weight to the character. If it ever does come up, it might be interesting to explore how that point didn't actually have a lot of weight. So we'll see. But I know I'm being very cagey. It's very in character. But how do I put this? Yeah, I think it's been one of my favorite campaigns of all time because everyone has given each other the space to play and explore and express in a safe environment and a welcoming environment. So I can't say I didn't go in expecting it to turn out this well. I didn't go in expecting bad things ever. I never do. But I describe campaigns like this as lightning in a bottle. It was something we've managed to capture because we were all in the right space at the right time.
Yes.
And we all kind of moved together in a way that worked. So, I was building a character I found interesting with a few cool, fun like hooks if it went that way, and I was hoping we'd get some RP in because I do tend to build characters that are more focused on RP, and I was just going to see where it went, and it went somewhere really special. It's top 3 private campaigns easily.
I know the numbers of the campaigns that you've been in, so that is a high praise indeed.
And if I'm including also all of the ones I've streamed, it's still top 5 and probably still top 3. So...
wait,
Take that, George.
You can't see it. I wish you could all see us, all like 5 of you. But we are arms in the air, like we're on a roller coaster, having a nice time. This makes us feel good. Validation from each other feels nice.
I'll wrap up from a personal perspective a couple of things. One thing, and I was being incredibly hyperbolic and joking for the most part, but I looked Jess in the eye on Saturday and I was like, have you ever created a character who has hang-ups? And it turns out they're just yours. And I will say that that's not entirely true. That's not even close to true. I've had very little actual bleed out with this character. I've had very little like feelings that I can't compartmentalize as this character. However, something I've started to notice about my favorite campaigns is where I don't necessarily have the same hangups as a character. It's still emblematic in some ways of the place I'm in my life at that time. And I think about some of the things that like my Storm Sorcerer Leon thought about or grew from or was growing into and how I was and who I was then.
Yeah.
And about care as well and who I am now and the things that I think about and the growth that I want to have as a person. And it's not lateral, it's not exact for sure, because I purposely design characters that aren't that way to avoid bleed. But there's still some things that are sort of emblematic of that to me. And I think that the characters that I'm able to grow alongside of are the ones that end up being my favorites.
Hey. That's nice.
That's so sweet. That's wonderful.
What about you, Sam?
As I said, I'm playing a character that's very me, and that's the first time that I've done that. That's not like an archetype or just like something. And as I've said earlier when we were discussing it, I'm trying a character that's imperfect to try and challenge some stuff in myself. I've deliberately made a character that has a lot of character bleed, and which that allows me to do some praxis on what I've been stating about bleed and making sure I'm taking care of myself. But it also allows me to like play a character to the quick. I'm playing something deeply personal that I really want this character to survive, and I really believe in a lot of, but not all of his values. Yeah,
good thing to
Well,
good thing to caveat.
fuck.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really interesting to play, and it feels like a
blue
very
sorry.
ACAB on this podcast. Thank you very much. But yeah, he has a problem with recognizing that the system's bad, but he thinks the system's good. Anyway. But yeah, some other parts, like he's very much a family man, and he cares a lot about people, and he believes in kind of the ethos of being a good person yourself and to others, and just a lot of that. But in a campaign that's really engaging and dynamic and fun, and also in a group that's really welcoming and also like yes-anding and encouraging in a safe way. And if anything goes too much we're fine. There's no one who's going to really rake us over the coals. So yeah, it's been great.
It's been such a good environment.
I've really enjoyed it.
I think that a lot of people are figuring or feeling some way. I know we have another player who has said that they haven't had the experience as often to really go into the roleplay heavy side of things, and has really enjoyed that. And so I think that this has brought something special to everyone, and I think that's why we're also very happy with it, and why we look forward to it every week.
It's tomorrow, by the way. It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
We get to fucking play
Fucking
tomorrow. I'm
yes.
very excited. All right. I think that's a perfect wrap-up point, don't you?
That was a beautiful bow. Thank you very much, CJ.
Thank you,
No
CJ.
problem. I do like restating things we've already stated in a way that makes it sound like I'm saying something unique.
Don't we all?
Don't we all?
So where can we find more of your stuff, CJ?
Yeah, so right now you can find me on CJ Starry pretty much everywhere, except for on Instagram, which is cj.starry, because someone took CJ Starry. And as well as you can find me on The Beloved Nerds and The Onyx Path.
Woohoo!
At the moment, I believe that's it, as we're in between shows on Ink and Lyre, but you might be able to, find me on a one-shot there or a short rest or something like that. So check those all out, and we will see you next time. And I'll popcorn to Sam.
I am this podcast is my living soul. You're already here listening to our stuff, but if you want to hear more shows that I've made, it's projectheadphones.com/shows, and there's all the shows I've done before. And you can also find us on most of our socials at Project Headphones, and on Twitter, Project, missing all the vowels from the word project, so PRJCT Headphones, and that's where I mainly retweet Lancer stuff and go, ooh, mech anime is very cool, and everyone sits around and going, yes, Sam, that's fine. Jess, where can we find you, and what are you doing?
Literally nothing. That's a lie. I'm doing a lot. There's a lot of stuff I cannot talk about because NDAs are
sure. Now the redacted stuff becomes your thing.
I hate it. How do you do it? But for all the stuff,
cagey little shit. That's how.
It's time to turn into a cagey little shit. I don't know how to do this, but we'll find a way.
You've got it.
I don't know. I don't know why my head was like, oh, I don't know anything. But you can find me over on Twitter at Dr. Bees. Doctor, the full word. Bees, also the full word, together as one word. You can find me over on Instagram at Julahoop. I rarely post there. Everything, all my shit posting, that's over on Twitter. In the next couple of weeks, hopefully, you will be able to hear me over on the Dicebreaker podcast, depending on when we get that one recorded. Yeah, I'll be over there. And failing that, there may be something in the pipeline on the Questing Time channel. So you can follow them
Cool.
on Twitch over at Questing Time, over on Twitter at Questing Time Comedy, and Instagram at Questing Time Comedy. I don't quite know all of the handles. I used to. I am old and my bones are crumbling into dust. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me doing all my nonsense.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. And we'll see you soon. And maybe we'll find out what's happening in some of those. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to our show. At the Table has been a Project Headphones production. You can see more of our work over at projectheadphones.com. To get in contact with the show, please email attetable@projectheadphones.com, and please remember to rate, review, and share amongst your friends. It's the best way we can get the show out there and do bigger things. Our music was Captain Scurvy and Space Jazz by Kevin MacLeod at incomputech.com, licensed under Creative Commons Attributions 4 license. Thank you very much, and roll well.